The sun blistered the canyon floor, heat waves rising off the red stone like smoke from hell. Buzzards circled high above, black specks in a merciless sky. Cole Maddox rode slow, boots creaking in the stirrups, eyes scanning the gulch like a man who'd seen too much to be surprised by cruelty anymore. Then he heard it. A sound, faint, rasping. Not quite human, not quite dead either. He turned his horse toward the noise, heart thudding. Around a bend, half buried in dust and scrub, he saw her. A young woman, tied to a twisted mesquite tree, wrists swollen and rope-burned, blood dried in streaks down her arms. Sunburn blistered her face. Her dress was torn, her feet bare and cracked. She didn't beg. She didn't scream. She just looked at him and whispered, "It hurts too much." Cole dismounted slow, like approaching a wounded animal. He took out his knife, slicing the rope that bound her. But when he pulled her hands forward, he froze, her back, raw, lashed to ribbons.
Flesh purple and black.
Flies buzzing where the skin had split, his jaw clenched. Lord have mercy. She tried to stand, collapsed. He caught her, lifted her in his arms. She weighed nothing. "Who did this to you?" he asked. Her voice was cracked, dry as ash. "My stepfather, Burke Clay, left me out here to die." Cole looked up at the buzzards circling, looked back down at her. Not today. He carried her to his horse, laid her gently across the saddle, wrapped her in his coat. The wind kicked up dust like a whisper from the grave. As they rode out of the canyon, her head resting against him, her eyes fluttered shut. Cole didn't speak again, but his grip on the reins tightened with every mile. Because a man who'd do that to a girl, his own kin, wasn't just wicked, he was walking dead. He just didn't know it yet. The wind told stories out here, ugly ones. Annabeth's mind drifted between memory and fever as Cole's horse carried her across the Badlands. But the images came sharp, brutal, unrelenting. It had started 2 nights ago. Burke Clay had been drunk again, drunker than usual. The poker table at Jeb's saloon had cleaned him out, and when he stumbled home, he blamed her. Always did. Said she brought him bad luck. Said she looked too much like her mother. He'd slammed the door, belt already unbuckled. "I told you what happens when a girl don't listen," he growled. Annabeth had run. Out the back, barefoot into the desert night. She almost made it to the rail yard. Almost. But his men caught her. Dragged her through dirt and thorns while she kicked and bit. One punched her hard in the ribs. Another laughed when she cried. Then came the whipping. 10 lashes. Then 15. Then 20. Each strike tore through her dress and skin alike. They tied her to a mesquite tree under the moonlight, wrists above her head. Rope biting deeper with every breath. Burke leaned close, reeking of whiskey and sweat. "You tell anybody about my business again," he hissed. "I'll bury you." "This is mercy," she spat blood into his face. He laughed and walked away. The sun came up like fire. Her lips cracked. Her skin burned. Buzzards landed nearby, watching, waiting. She prayed once, then cursed the sky, then went silent. But just when her mind began to float free, ready to give in to whatever came next, she heard hooves. A shadow, a man, Cole Maddox, not just a rancher. A quiet storm. Now curled against his coat, she stirred again. Her voice a ghost. "Why'd you stop?" Cole didn't answer right away. Just kept riding. Then finally he said low, "Ain't right. Leaving someone like that. I was raised better." Annabeth closed her eyes. Not all men were devils. One maybe could be different. The cabin at Sparrow Ridge stood quiet against the granite hills, wrapped in pine and silence. Smoke curled from its crooked chimney as twilight bled across the sky, softening the world in gold and gray. Cole carried Annabeth through the door like something sacred. She barely stirred, skin pale, lashes fluttering, breath shallow. He laid her gently on the cot by the hearth. The fire crackled to life, throwing flickers of light across the rough-hewn walls. Her eyes opened for a moment, taking in the cabin's warmth, the rifle above the door, the rocking chair, the single Bible on the shelf. Then she slept. Cole worked by lantern light, jaw tight, hands steady. He cleaned the wounds along her back with boiled water and pine tar, biting down at the smell. Each lash mark told a story of pain no one should know. He wrapped her wrists in cotton and poured her a tin of broth, leaving it to cool beside her bed. Outside, coyotes howled in the distance. Inside, the silence was heavier. Hours passed. Night deepened. Then, a jolt, a scream. Annabeth sat up, eyes wide, chest heaving. She clawed at the sheets like she was still tied down. Cole was there in a blink. "It's all right," he said gently. "Ain't no one here but me." Her voice cracked. "He was there. I saw him." Cole nodded once. "I know." She looked down at her hands. "I can still feel the rope." He handed her a mug. "Drink, slow," she sipped, hands trembling. The firelight danced across her face, half girl, half ghost. Cole spoke after a long pause. "You got a name?" "Annabeth. Annabeth Clay," she added bitterly. "Not anymore," he said. "Not if you don't want it." A log popped in the hearth. She looked at him, really looked. The gray in his beard, the sadness in his eyes, the steadiness of a man who'd seen storms and survived everyone. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Cole leaned back in the rocker, eyes on the fire. "'Cause I seen what happens when good folks turn away. And I ain't about to turn." For the first time in days, she let her shoulders rest. Not safe yet, but safer. And that was something. The town of Sparrow Ridge lay quiet under a heavy dusk. Saloon lamps flickered to life, casting long, drunken shadows on the wooden boardwalk. But something about the air had changed, like a storm waiting just past the ridgeline. Burke Clay rode in slow. His coat flapped like a vulture's wing, and two hard-eyed men followed behind him, guns low, mouths mean. He smiled at the townsfolk like a man offering candy laced with poison. "Evening, Sheriff," he called to Greeley, who stood stiff near the jailhouse steps. "Heard tell my daughter might have come through here." "Run off, confused in the head." Sheriff Greeley didn't smile back. "Ain't seen her." Burke dismounted, boots hitting the dirt with a thud. "You mind if I ask around?" "I mind," the sheriff said. "You ain't got a warrant, and folks around here don't take kindly to troublemakers." Burke chuckled. "You calling me a troublemaker?" "No. I'm calling you a bad memory that should have stayed buried." Burke's smile faded just a little. Across the ridge, high above town, Cole and Annabeth watched from the dark edge of his cabin. Through the spyglass, Cole could see Burke's face, same as years ago. Meaner now, wetter with drink, but the same rot behind the eyes. Annabeth's breath caught. "That's him. You sure?" "I'd know that voice in my grave." Cole lowered the glass. "He's sniffing too close." That night, while Annabeth tried to sleep, Cole sat out front, rifle across his lap. The moon hung heavy, and the air smelled like pine and rain. Then a twig snapped. He stood, slow and silent, boots barely shifting in the dust. A shadow moved along the tree line. Then another. Cole raised his rifle and fired, a single shot into the dark. The shadows scattered, crashing through brush. Inside, Annabeth shot upright. "Was it him?" she whispered. "Not yet," Cole said, walking back to the porch. "Just one of his dogs." He placed the rifle on the table beside the door. "If he comes back," he muttered. "He won't be leaving." The lantern flickered as a gust of wind rushed past, whispering promises of violence not far behind. Morning broke slow over Sparrow Ridge, the sky painted in bruised shades of pink and gray. Smoke still lingered from the night's shot, hanging low among the pines. Cole was already on the porch, coffee steaming in a tin mug, rifle leaning against the doorframe like a promise. The sheriff arrived not long after, dust trailing his gelding as he rode up the hill. Greeley dismounted with a grunt, boots crunching on frost-bitten earth. "You stirred up a hornet's nest," he said without greeting. Cole nodded toward the tree line. "Burke sent someone last night. Caught him sniffing too close." The sheriff walked inside. Saw Annabeth by the fire, blanket wrapped around her, eyes hollow but watching. Her wrists were still red beneath the bandages. Greeley's jaw tightened. "You Annabeth Clay?" She met his gaze. "Not anymore. You willing to testify what he did to you?" She pulled the blanket down, turned her back to him, slowly. The sheriff swallowed. "Lord Almighty." Cole stepped in. "You gonna do something, or we gotta handle this our own way?" "I'll file charges," Greeley said. "But he's a gambler with friends." Won't be easy getting a judge to sign off unless we got more than just scars. I'll talk, Annabeth said. Whatever you need. The sheriff looked at her like she'd just picked up a badge herself. You got grit, girl. She stood, wobbly but proud. I ain't hiding no more. Greeley tipped his hat. I'll be back. With papers and a rope for that bastard's hands. When he rode off, Cole turned to her. You sure about this? Her voice was steady. He thought he broke me. He's about to learn what breaking does. Later, Cole led her behind the cabin. Showed her an old revolver. You ever shoot? No. He handed it to her. Start slow. She missed the first 5 cans. By the 10th shot, 2 lay in the dirt. Cole nodded. You'll be ready. As the sun dipped low again, Annabeth stared out over the ridge, jaw set, revolver on her hip. A fire building behind her eyes. The law was in motion. But war was coming first. The wind turned bitter that night, dragging a storm in its wake. Clouds swallowed the stars. The pines swayed like they knew something was coming. Cole stood by the front window, lantern dimmed low, rifle in hand. Annabeth sat near the hearth, boots on, revolver on her lap, shoulders tight. The silence was the kind that comes before a fight. Then, hooves, slow at first, then many. The ground trembled like thunder had mounted a horse. Annabeth rose, blood draining from her face. It's him. Cole didn't answer. Just pulled the curtain back a hair. Down the hill, torches moved through the trees, flickering orange and angry. Burke Clay rode at the front, his coat flapping, his voice rising above the wind. Cole Maddox! You got something belongs to me. Behind him, 6 men on horseback, some drunk, all armed. Cole stepped onto the porch. She ain't yours, Burke sneered. Everything in my house is mine. Always has been. Cole racked his rifle. Not tonight. Not ever again. Burke's eyes narrowed. He nodded to his men. The barn was the first to go. Flames shot up fast, horses inside screaming, then gunfire, wild, echoing off the ridgeline. Cole ducked inside. Stay down, he told Annabeth. She grabbed the revolver and slid to the back window. Cover the east side, Cole said. They'll circle! The first shot punched through the doorframe. Cole returned fire, shattering a lantern and lighting a man's sleeve. Screams tore through the dark. Annabeth aimed, waited, then fired, once. A body hit the ground. Cole glanced back. You all right? Her voice was steel. I ain't scared of ghosts anymore. Bullets cracked wood. Glass shattered. The flames from the barn lit up the night like a battlefield. Then silence. The gang hesitated. Some fled. Burke stood alone now, torch in one hand, pistol in the other. You got no law up here, he shouted. Cole stepped onto the porch, rifle steady. It's riding up behind you. From the darkness, a distant voice. Sheriff's here! Burke turned, too late. Hoofbeats again. Real ones. And justice, roaring through the trees. The storm finally broke. Thunder cracked over Sparrow Ridge as the sheriff's posse burst through the tree line, lanterns swinging. Rifles raised, justice riding hard. Burke's gang scattered like jackals caught in daylight. Some tried to run, others fired wildly into the dark. But Greeley's men were ready. Shots rang out clean, precise, final. 2 of Burke's men dropped in the mud, one crying out before silence claimed him. Cole stepped forward from the porch, bleeding from the shoulder. Jaw clenched tight. Burke turned, pistol drawn. Eyes darting like a cornered animal. You ain't taking me, he snarled. She's lying! She always lied. Greeley rode straight at him, shotgun aimed square. Drop it, Burke. I raised her. Burke screamed, spittle flying. She's mine by blood. From the smoke came another voice, steady, quiet, cold. No, not anymore. Annabeth stepped out, revolver in hand, coat soaked from rain, hair clinging to her cheeks. Her hands trembled, but she didn't lower the gun. Burke turned to her, twisted smile returning. You gonna shoot your own kin? You stopped being kin the first time you laid a hand on me, Burke laughed. You ain't got it in you. She aimed low and fired. The shot exploded into the dirt beneath his horse. The beast reared, screamed, and threw him hard. Burke hit the ground with a wet crunch, groaning as he reached for his pistol. Cole stepped forward, boot landing hard on Burke's wrist. No more chances. The sheriff dismounted and cuffed Burke with iron shackles. Rain hissing as it struck the metal. You'll face trial, Greeley said. In front of God and a judge, Burke growled, face in the mud. She's nothing. Always was. Annabeth stood over him now. For the first time in her life, she looked down on the man who made her small. I was yours once, she said, voice steady. Now I belong to no one. Lightning cracked behind her like judgment itself. And with that, it was done. Burke Clay was dragged down the ridge in chains. The barn smoked, the earth churned and stained, but the cabin still stood. So did Annabeth. The courthouse smelled of dust, sweat, and old pine. Sunlight slanted through the tall windows, painting stripes across the wooden benches. The town had gathered, whispers bouncing off the walls like restless spirits. Burke Clay sat shackled, face sullen, eyes darting like a cornered fox. He spat on the floor and muttered curses, but no one flinched. Not today. Annabeth entered, shoulders straight, hands clasped, her scars visible beneath a simple dress. The courtroom went quiet. Every whisper died at the sight of her. This was the girl they had feared would break, the girl who had survived. The sheriff stood by her side, stoic and silent. Cole leaned against the wall in the back, hat tipped low, boots scuffed and worn. The judge called the court to order. Burke Clay, you are accused of abuse, attempted murder, and kidnapping. How do you plead?